guess the game wasn't kidding when it tried to warn you about the DLC's horror nature in the main menu. Funnily enough, this pop-up message starts the psychological warfare inside your brain and keeps you alert all the way through the game. Although the base game isn't a horror game itself, it had its moments that were eerie or uncomfortable. There was but one planet, if you can even call this a planet, that experimented with the horror side of the space setting, where the player will encounter something able to kill him. It's easily one of the most memorable encounters, so why not make a DLC based around fear? That's where Echoes of the Eye comes into play. It introduces a whole new location to explore and even manage to hide it away from the players by being invisible until approached. Finding the mysterious station is a puzzle itself, but we'll discuss that later and just for now focus on its presentation. What's great about it is that it won't interfere with the player's original experience from the game, and they can completely miss it without doing some side exploration on their home planet. Instead of introducing new mechanics, it delves deeper on the already existing ones. The visuals at the first glance aren't too different from the base game, but the whole aesthetic is more natural, or you could even say tribal, when 70% of the station, also known as the Stranger, is made out of wood and the rest is artificially created terrain to resemble hills, forests, and then we have the river that is held back by the giant wooden dam. The dam is a great separator of the cyclic design of the station, breaking the river into a beginning and the end, making the navigation a bit easier and less nauseating. Although it still can mess with your vision or head if you try to locate and pinpoint locations you want to visit next. The Stranger is just as lively as other planets during your never-ending loop. It's more subtle than on other planets, but here you can notice the dam is slowly cracking and can't hold the water any longer until it finally breaks down and floods most of the environment and buildings, cutting you off from potential progress. Further into the DLC, there are more uniquely looking areas than in the base game, but I will get into them later since they play a major role in the gameplay and the story. While the visuals capture the eeriness of isolation, the sound design is what turns that unease into genuine fear. There's not too many new sounds, but once you get to the creepier side of the Stranger, you will hear the footsteps of the inhabitants. Or their screeches when they will notice your presence. But what made me almost piss myself was the moment when you turned their lights off. Besides these sounds, there are barely any new, but then there's the music, with the most notable piece being the river theme. When you finally get to explore the Stranger and try to figure out what happened here, you'll be met with the core mimic of the DLC, illumination. It will teach you how to properly use your flashlight on the very first puzzle, but not until you manage to open the door without any major hints. With the station being even more alien than the technology, architecture or lore of the Nomai, your translator here is completely useless, and you will have to assume what was the writing's original meaning. You'll be using these primitive boats quite often from now on to quickly travel through the cycling river, Everything in here is controlled by your light source, and the boats are no different. Your flashlight can slightly change the direction of the boat, or make it float faster depending on which of the 4 crystals it shines on. Scout launcher can be pretty useful around here too, since the scouts themselves emit light in a small radius. One little fun tip which I have found is that when you launch a scout on top of the dam, the scouts usually tell you the stability of the surface, and it can show you how much time you have left until the dam breaks. So that's a pretty cool little detail. Now, all of this sounds cool and all, but where's the horror? Well, it's hidden away from you until you crack one of the more major puzzles. That's when you realize there's actually 2 more layers to this. The circular station is just the surface, because locals created a virtual reality for themselves, where it's really dark, and when you get there, none of your tools get transferred into the simulation. So we are now stuck here with a weird looking lantern that can be focused on specific objects or concealed when you need to hide before the hostile inhabitants. But there's more. Your lantern is also a projector, so if you place it on the ground and walk away from it, you will soon see the back end of this whole simulation, with all kinds of different markers and paths. Others can see you when you are literally not loaded in, but you are very limited on what you can do without your lantern. But how did we even get this deep? Well, let's start from the very beginning. Echoes of the Eye will take you back to your beloved home planet Timber Hearth, where in the museum you will notice a photo of a local radio station. In this station there are even more photos displayed on the walls, and on one of them the sun appears to be blocked by some unknown object. Could it be a planet or maybe something else? This is one of the first puzzles in the DLC, which is fairly simple, but if you weren't really too observant in the previous games you've played, you might have never solved this. Surprisingly, these degrees written on the photos are not random nor just decoration. They will help you with identifying the object when you make your journey to the satellite that has taken these photos. It's the same old satellite that gives you access to your map. Once you make it to the satellite, it will display its current degrees. So now we just need to wait. The sun's rays reveal a silhouette of an object with unknown origin that has sneaked inside our solar system without trace. From the outside you can see the simplicity of it through the material it was built with, like stone and wood, and yet there's electricity operating the whole station. Inside I could talk about its progress, but I don't think that would be too interesting for you as a viewer. Instead, I'd like to highlight the interesting use of visual storytelling, which plays into the strange environment. The locals store these slide reels, which are now ruined to tell stories and treasure their history. You can play these reels in the slideshow rooms, scattered across the stranger. What's so unique about them is the lack of text or spoken word in them, making your fantasy work. But ever since the locals discovered the eye, things began to change rapidly. They tried to get rid of any kind of evidence mentioning the existence of the eye by burning most of the slide reels and destroying these metal eye symbols they usually hung on the walls. In fact, they were afraid of the eye after they received a message from it with their vision torches. Think of the torches as CD burners, but for your imagination and memories instead of CDs. The torches were used to create the slide reels, and they can also be used for sharing memories and thoughts, so they aimed it at the eye and received the message. The vision they saw showed the universe dying, but before they could see it whole, they panicked and thought of a plan how to survive the end of all existence. The vision torches played a major part in their new plan, trying to restore their home they have destroyed for the sake of creating this space module. With the memories they had, they created a simulation in which they would eventually hide away before the eye. In the meantime, they launched their claw that would seal the eye's signal, so no one could ever see what's coming to them. But there was one Auk who wanted to see more from the eye, and he managed to communicate with it once he turned off the claw. In the last moments where they saw a skull left at the edge of the universe, a flower began to blossom from its socket, revealing new stars and galaxies. Others found out about this rebel and decided to punish him by hiding him away like the slide reels, except when he unblocked the signal for just a small moment, it was enough for the Nomai to track it down. But that's a story I've already told in the previous review. You will finally find the prisoner and share your experiences throughout your journeys. He describes to you his point of view, and you tell him in return the truth, together with what has happened since he unblocked the signal. And with this knowledge he leaves his chamber and walks into the deep waters of the simulation, which ultimately exhausts his artifact. Outside, he has already died some time ago, just like the others, who are trapped in here. So this ultimately kills him, finally releasing him from the prison chamber. Honestly, I didn't think anything without a spoken word could impress me so much like this DLC. And combined with the base game story, which is also influential, I was guilty of googling bunch of hints for the base game, and thanks to this DLC I managed to go at least through this without any outside help. Well, of course, except for some people's theories and advice from chat, but those didn't play the game before, so they were in the same spot like I was. Ultimately, Echoes of the Eye couldn't be a better choice for additional content. I loved every single bit of it, and it made Outer Wilds even more influential than I first thought it was. It even slightly changes the canon ending which you can achieve, but I think I will leave that for you to discover. Anyway, thank you for watching, and also thank you who were watching these streams, because I had a blast streaming and I'm sorry I didn't manage to finish the DLC on the stream, but I didn't really have much time now since, you know, school and stuff like that. So I wanted to at least give you this review so I can share with you what the game really is like, or this DLC. So thank you for sticking by. And one more thing I'd like to thank you for is that we managed to hit the big milestone 2,000 subs on YouTube, which is absolutely insane. And I can't even thank you enough for this. Like, seriously, this is unimaginable for me, and yet here we are. So genuinely thank you for everyone that subscribed. Every kind of support is very welcome in here, and yeah, thank you. And I hope I will see you in the next video, which should be fairly soon, I hope. Alright, see ya later, guys.